You ever feel like on your journey to lose weight and get healthy, it seems like no matter how hard you try, no matter how many diets you try, how many exercises you do, it feels like the weight won't stay off. The weight comes off temporarily, but as soon as a birthday party rolls around, as soon as an office party comes around, as soon as another celebration or temptation comes, you just find yourself doing the same things over and over, and the weight keeps on coming back. You're struggling, you're frustrated, you have low energy, your clothes don't fit like they used to. Life is just frustrating, and you feel like you don't know what's wrong with you. We'll stick to the end of this video, and I'm going to show you how I use 5 principles that are based out of the Bible to help me lose over 150 pounds naturally. And I didn't do it using any type of surgery. I didn't get any injections or use any crazy diet pills. I just used a few biblical based principles and renewed my mind, ate God's natural foods, and just changed my mind. I started off with changing my mind and how I thought about life and how I thought about myself. It just changed everything for me. So stick to the end of this video, and I'm going to show you how you can do the same. You know, back in the day, I used to weigh over 439 pounds, believe it or not. I still can't even fathom it, even when I look at the old pictures nowadays. And I think about how miserable I was. But these principles changed the game for me. You know, I think about when I used to weigh over 400 pounds, 439.2 to be exact. I think about like, man, it's like when your room gets dirty or when the kitchen gets dirty. It starts off with one spoon, and then all of a sudden you see the sink is full of dishes or your room is full of dirty clothes, and you ask yourself, man, how did we get here? That's what I found myself asking myself when I was weighing over 400 pounds. And so here we have agape on the board. And what is agape? Agape is the highest form of love. It's sacrificial love. And what I realized back when I was over 400 pounds, I thought I loved myself, but the fact of the matter is I didn't. I didn't love myself. I didn't love how I looked. I didn't love how I felt. I didn't love how lackluster my energy was. I didn't love anything about myself. I thought I did. Food actually made me think I loved myself. I loved myself while I was eating, I'll tell you that. But guess what? You know how the song goes. The thrill is gone. Once that bag of chips was empty, right? Once the candy bag was empty, then it's back to life, back to reality as the song goes. But it really does start off with agape love. And again, agape love is the highest form of love. That's the love that God has for us. You know, if you think about agape love has no strings attached, right? It's loving not based off of feelings, but based off of what's right? So that's how we have to treat our bodies. We have to love our bodies regardless of how we feel in the temporary moment. You know, your feelings are the worst salesman. Your mind can be the worst salesman. You can't believe everything that you think, and you have to be mindful of your habits. And that's one thing that I didn't realize back when I used to weigh over 400 pounds. And so first off, we have alignment. I had to get my mind right. That was first and foremost. You already heard the saying, mind over matter. It's not just a cliche, it's so true. You have to get your mind right first. That's what I had to switch up in order to lose over 150 pounds naturally. It says in the Bible, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Well, when you hear renewal, what comes to mind? For me, renovation comes to mind. And when you renovate, not only are you putting new things in, but you're taking old things out first. And order is so important. So you got to take things out before you put new things in. I had to get my mind right. I think about when I was a child, my mom and I and my dad and my sisters and brothers, we went to this church that was right next to a Chinese carryout. And I grew up in the DC, Maryland area. And our carryouts are fire. If you make your way down there, you know, hit you up almost any carryout, eight times out of 10. But You get your chicken wings, your mumbo sauce, your French fries. Mumbo sauce is a staple in the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area, the DMV. And anyway, I'm getting. As you can tell, I love food, so I could go down that rabbit hole real easy. But we had a carryout right next to my church, and I would always every Sunday after church, I would ask my mom, ask my dad, can I get $1? Can I get a couple dollars so I can get some chicken wings and mumbo sauce and fries, or at least $1? I'll be able to get a container of wings for $1. And I would always beg after church, can I get $1? Can I get $1? I'll be so hungry. I'm so hungry. And my pastor would sometimes walk by as he saw me begging my parents for $1, and then they tell me no, and I'm like, why, I'm hungry. And so my pastor, he'd always hit me with the same question, and he'd stump me every time. And he'd say, uh, you know, something along the lines of, so you want some carry out? And I say, yeah. He's like, why? I was like, because I'm hungry. And he's like, you're hungry? And I'm like, yeah. And you know what he would ask me? You want an apple? And you know what I'd say? No, I don't want an apple. And guess what he said? Well, I guess you're not hungry then. And I'll never forget that. I would always be so mad. I would be so annoyed, right? Because I don't want no apple. I want some fries, right? I want some carry out wings with the mumbo sauce. I would get annoyed, and he would do that over and over. This would happen for throughout my childhood. I'd fall for that same trick. And I didn't want an apple, but guess what? I wasn't in alignment. My mind wasn't right. I should have taken that apple. It would have been a much different journey for me on this weight loss journey, because it took me a while to get my mind right and start getting this weight off naturally. So alignment it starts first. You notice the head is at the top, right? Our feet are at the bottom. God did that for a reason, right? We need to get our mind right first. You've heard mind over matter. Again, that's not a cliche. Also, guardianship. And yes, that is spelled correctly, guardianship. God placed man in the garden before he placed man and woman anywhere else. Our bodies, our minds, they are gardens. I'm going to jack up this quote, but it goes along the lines of, thoughts and seeds, excuse me, thoughts, words, and deeds, they're all seeds. So you're either planting flowers or you're planting weeds. There is no in between. Like everything that you consume, whether it's something you watch, you hear, interactions, your environment, you are planting a garden in you. Okay, this is a little deep, but it's true. We're not vehicles. There is no such thing as neutral. So you have to be mindful of what you consume. I had to change what I consumed, what I listened to, right? That changed the absolute game for me. I wasn't taking care of my garden. When I weighed over 400 pounds, I was laying in the couch playing PlayStation for hours upon hours, ordering DoorDash, right? And watching and listening to garbage. I wasn't taking care of my garden. You're always planning something in your mind, whether you realize it or not. What entertains you trains you. A lot of people don't realize that. But one thing I had to realize is that I have to pay attention to what I pay attention to. Your mind is a garden. Your body is a garden. You've already heard the saying, you are what you eat. That's all rooted in there. So keep in mind, your mind is a garden. Your mind doesn't even care, or your garden, whether if you plant poison in the garden's not going to say, "Oh, we don't want poison." No. It's just going to reproduce whatever you plant. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap, and it's going to multiply way more than you planted. Anyway, here's a big one that I didn't want to hear. You probably don't want to hear, but it was another game changer for me. Abstinence. Abstinence. And we're not just talking about sex. Abstinence is intentional restriction of an appetite, whether temporary or permanent. And so a lot of people feel like, oh, I want to get this goal. I want to get this amount of money. I want to lose this amount of weight, but they don't want to pay the cost. It says in the Bible, sure, you can do all things, right? You can do almost anything you want, but is it going to be beneficial, right? Is it going to be productive for you? So you have to figure out, I had to figure out, what can I do without, right? Because there's so many things that I did just because of habit. I would just eat as much as I wanted because of habit, just because it was convenient. Even now, currently, I'm eating more of a low carb diet. I find that much easier than me minimizing my calories and eating, a little bit of cake, a little bit for me, abstinence is much easier than moderation, right? I sometimes get people tell me, oh, you don't have to go so extreme. You don't have to go so extreme. Look, I think getting surgery is extreme. I think having injections is a little extreme. I think, having crazy prescription diet pills where you don't know what the side effects are extreme. Me saying I'm not going to eat regular bread, maybe I'll eat low carb bread, I don't think that's extreme. That's a form of abstinence, and I think it's paying off in the long run. So I find abstinence much easier than moderation for me personally, but you have to find what works for you. And then here's another big one, prioritization, right? It's not so much that you have to completely get rid of everything you're doing, change all the habits you're doing. Sometimes just reordering makes all the difference. For example, when I eat, I prioritize holy foods first. I prioritize whole foods first. God's foods, foods that God made. All right. And they are whole foods because their definition is one whole word. Their ingredients are one whole word. Celery, apples, carrots, etc., etc. So prioritization is key. Prioritization means putting the important things above the things that seem urgent. First things first. And last but not least, execution. So I mentioned before, back when I weighed over 400 pounds, all I did all day, every day was play PlayStation, play NBA 2K, and I'd listen to audiobooks. I would listen to audiobooks as I was playing games. And one beautiful definition I've heard for entertainment is anesthesia. And it's not just entertainment, escapism, distractions. They're the anesthesia that helps numb the pain of us not fulfilling our dreams, of us not living to our highest potential. And PlayStation for me was my anesthesia. It's different for everyone. Netflix, watching TV all day, that was another form of anesthesia for me. Eating was my anesthesia. But anyway, I would listen to audiobooks all day while playing PlayStation. And I thought I was doing something. I had PlayStation serve as the anesthesia for me not living my dreams. But then I would feel guilty playing PlayStation. So I would listen to audiobooks to be the anesthesia of me playing PlayStation. It was crazy. The mind is a fascinating thing. And then now I'm feeling productive as I'm being lethargic. And it was insane. I was spinning my wheels and not making any progress, wondering, man, I'm listening to all these great books. I'm learning, I'm doing something noble. I'm growing, and I feel like I'm still stuck. Well, guess what? I was listening, but I wasn't taking action. I wasn't executing. And it even says in the Bible to be not only hearers, but doers of the word. I had to take action, and I wasn't taking action. So once I switched the way I read the Bible, once I started switching the way I read self-help books, motivational books, spiritual books, health books, I, instead of looking for something to learn, I switched my priority to look for something to do. Let me say that again. In case I said that a little bit too fast. Well, it's not that I'm talking too fast. It's just that you're listening too slow. Instead of reading, looking for something to learn, I would read and look for something to do, and then implement it as soon as possible. That changed the game for me. So these are the 5 shifts that I made to help me lose over 150 pounds naturally. Again, no surgery, no crazy diet pills, and no injections. And you can apply these principles as well and lose the amount of weight that you need to lose. Will it be easy? Will it be hard? You know, that's a controversial question right there. But let me scratch that and just say there's the easy hard principle, right? Things that feel hard in the beginning, they're gonna be easy on the long run. But if you only focus on things that are easy in the short run, it's gonna make life harder for you in the long run. So don't worry about whether something's easy or hard. Guess what? At one point, tying your shoes felt hard. And now you can do it with your eyes closed. So the way I look at it is choose your pain, right? You're either going to get pain in the beginning or you're going to get pain at the end. Either way, you're going to get pain. So I highly encourage you to apply these to your life and see how you can change your life for the better. But for me, I'll tell you this though, to answer the question, this is easy for me. But the reason that it's easy is because I made it a habit. I made it a part of my life. Now I'm at the point where when I exercise, it's just like brushing my teeth. I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it. So is it easy for me? Yes. Will it be easy for you in the beginning? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on your lifestyle. But it will be once you have consistency. You apply these 5 shifts to your life and it'll absolutely change the game for you. I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something new. Be safe out there. God bless. And remember, faith doesn't work unless you do. Let's get it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video.